And it just caught me so off guard. I remember being genuinely just shocked. Like, that came out of left field. But
During an intimate moment?
It was
busting.
While he was finishing. He just kind of let
wow.
it out. It was
I
like,
busted wide open.
Bring
it back.
Never say that to a feminist.
I mean, there's a time and a place for things, but it was just kind of weird to say it like as you're finishing.
But that is literally the time to say something like that in that moment.
It's called dirty talk, Nor.
Hey, Sozahdah sisters. Let's go.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Suspected. 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 Suspected.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Wolfpack group chat. I'm Jamila, sister number 7.
I'm Nuria, sister number 9.
Hello there, Sadiqa, sister number 8.
Hi, I'm Shakur, sister number 5.
This is
Suspective.
Also joining us today is our AI 11th sister, 11.
And of course, our amazing executive producer, Erica Bryant.
Hey.
All right, ladies, you ready to get real nasty?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the F word today. Ooh. It's not the F word you're thinking about. It's called forgiveness.
Talk dirty to me, girl.
And performative healing. Ooh.
I need a napkin, girl.
Someone turn the AC.
So, are you excited about today's topic?
I
am. It's interesting, the F word, right? Forgiveness. Have you ever thought about, just in life in general, have you ever thought, who was the hardest person you've ever forgiven? Sid?
Oh, shit. I wasn't ready. Darn. So I'd have to say you, Jamila, in recent times. You and I were best friends. We were soulmates, sister mates. And we had a falling out for a long time. I want to say almost 2 years, right? Or 16 months or something like that. So that was tough for me. So yeah, you, Jamila.
Okay. Shakur?
The hardest person I had to forgive, well, there's two. Two of them would be you and Jamila and my ex-husband.
Nor?
The hardest person that I've forgiven was definitely my ex. And on a deeper level, myself. Mm-hmm. I had to learn how to forgive myself. That was a very big lesson.
Jamila, who was the hardest person you had to forgive?
I think the hardest person to forgive, just like what Noria said, was myself. Myself for staying too long, for trying to keep the peace in the sake of, sake with the family. I felt like in many instances I betrayed myself for the sake of peace. So I'd say myself.
I like that.
I agree. Mm-hmm. I'll add that to my list of forgiving people.
Mm-hmm. How important is the accountability in the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of it all?
I think, of course, accountability is important, but you can't force that. What's more important is acceptance. You have to accept that someone offended you or hurt you or did something, and nothing can ever be done to undo that. And you can't control why they did it. At the end of the day, it boils down to, do you just accept that it happened as an experience, and how do you respond to that?
Because for me, I can forgive someone without the apology, but that's like you farting in the room and leaving me to open all the windows. Like, that's not sorry.
That's an interesting analogy. I haven't heard that one.
You're not sorry. You're just slippery. And that's not accountability. That's like audacity and HD. So for me, it's like just owning it. I can do away with the words. Words are just words. Show me in your actions that you are apologetic by it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. There's a clinical psychologist, Dr. Lerner, and she says that forgiveness without accountability is just emotional gaslighting.
I agree.
That makes a lot of sense. Yes, I think that the reason why it's hard to forgive is for a few reasons personally. And I think it's because our brains are wired to remember pain more than joy. And it's more of a survival mechanism for us. If there's a traumatic event that occurred, our nervous system, as soon as we see the similar thing happening again, our nervous system starts firing off out of fear, like, oh no, this is gonna happen again. And so
Triggers.
it's trying to teach you how to survive in that moment. And additionally, I think that, it's important to forgive mainly for yourself, because it's trauma that you're carrying and the body keeps score. Whether you want to admit it or not, your body will store that trauma, and it will do it in the forms of your nervous system, in your amygdala, in your hippocampus. It's all these different ways that it affects you. And I actually did some research on it because I wanted to know a bit more psychologically how holding on to grudges or trauma or pain really is more harmful to you. It's like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies.
Correct.
Essentially is what it's doing. And it's there's no sense or logic to it. So the amygdala, your fear center, it becomes overactive and it leads to dissociation. Hippocampus is more like your memory organizer, and it shrinks. And it becomes hard for your body to discern the past from the present. So it's recalling that memory, that trauma, very vividly in real time for you. And then your prefrontal cortex that helps regulate your logic and your reasoning, it becomes underactive. So your body starts to react more emotionally to traumatic events and triggers you.
In our lives growing up as sisters, and I'm not sure if other people can relate to this, but like when we suppress or perform forgiveness, like inside we're still bleeding. Like I know there's still a lot of forgiveness that needs to happen between, like, let's say you, Shakur, and you, Sid, because we haven't actually addressed it. I mean, don't know if today's discussion is for that, because I think there's so much that needs to be unpacked. But I personally feel like even growing up, being in, I don't know if it's the Afghan culture or just us as sisters, when mom says, it's okay, just let it go, you'll be fine. It's like, but no, where's the accountability? Like, how come I have to be the bigger person? How come I have to pretend to be a certain way? Or I have to just forgive a sister for doing something? Like, where the hell are the boundaries?
Well, I do remember mom specifically making a rule, an eye for an eye. And so my mom was really big on, she slapped you, you would have to stand there, put your hair back, and you have to get slapped right back. My mom was all about an eye for an eye.
I don't remember that.
I remember an eye for an eye. Do you know?
I
Maybe
remember
you
it very
do.
clearly. I'll tell you one story specifically. Is
To
when
strangers or to family?
To family, girl.
Oh, no.
To us
Where were you?
sisters.
But
no,
mom,
I'm
yeah.
always told to turn the cheek and just be the bigger person. From our oldest sister to our mom, even till this day, I have
Maybe
messages.
the newer version of them or the older version of them may have that.
I guess maybe I
that
just
logic,
I
but
remember
growing up,
Hamida
it wasn't that.
stabbed me with a fork, and then mom let me stab her with a pencil. So I do remember.
You know what's funny, Sadiqa? I remember Hamida stabbed me with the screwdriver, and mom told Hamida to sit there and say, "Do it back to her,"
And you
but I
couldn't do
couldn't.
it.
I couldn't
And
bring
you
myself
cried and
to
you
do
couldn't.
it. I just, yeah.
So I remember an eye for an eye, but then my mom always said an eye for an eye, makes the whole world go blind. I understand that too. But there were instances where, an eye for an eye definitely made you feel better. But like you say, it's not real healing. It's
Not
cover
Well,
up.
how you said that, why does someone have to be the bigger person? For me and who I am now today, going through my own transformation, healing isn't cheap, and peace does not come with credit. So I don't forgive to necessarily forget, but I do it to reclaim my space and my mind and my spirit, and I choose to budget my energy wisely. So it's really having nothing to do with the person. It's just a matter of me maintaining my peace. So if that means saying I got to be the bigger person to not jeopardize my peace, I'll let it go. I don't stand on ceremony anymore. The old Shook would have been like, nah, I'm gonna die about this shit. But the new Shook is like, I don't care about it. I don't care about it. You can win. You can have it. You can take it. If it means that much more to you, you can have it, because I'm already winning in life. I have my peace.
So
and
you're
that's
saying
something
that forgiveness was for you, it wasn't for them.
correct.
I get that.
I mean, I believe that. I believe that you can forgive, but forgiveness doesn't mean that you still have access to me and I can block you.
Right? Absolutely.
I don't block anyone nowadays. Have at it.
Because you like to grin when they come back. That's why.
Because they always come back.
That,
girl.
well, look who came back around. Sure enough, they always do.
Does accountability have to come first, or can you forgive someone that never owned their part?
I think that there are moments where accountability doesn't come first, and then you forgive them, and then you forgiving them pushes them to take accountability. And in some instances, it can be like that, where you're like, oh my gosh, they forgave me. Wow. Well, Then you point the finger back at yourself, like, wow, how big of them to forgive me? What did I do? Maybe I fucked up. And then it makes you kind of think of taking accountability, and it can lead to accountability. I don't think one should come before the other, because sometimes you forgive, like, in our situation where we have essentially forgiven each other, but neither of us have yet to take accountability, right? We haven't had that conversation yet.
Or maybe there hasn't been actual forgiveness and we're just tolerating each other right now.
Well,
Yeah,
damn.
it could be that as well.
Like, I'll tell you an example. When, this was before I got pregnant and all of that, like, I chose to take my pregnancy journey on my own. And I didn't want to have anyone around me because that was my time to heal and to have peace. I didn't want any negativity or toxicity to be in my space. But after I had Nahara, I came up to Nora, you remember, and I say, you know what? There's no ego in forgiveness. There shouldn't be any ego in any situation, especially with family. And I came to you and I said, we need to discuss the elephant in the room, because when you guys came back into my life after she was born, because I wasn't going to be that mom that was going to allow Nahara to pay for our sins, right? We're fighting, but our children shouldn't pay for the sins of their mother and their father.
The sins of the father should not go to the daughter.
So I wanted to make sure that you ladies had a part in her life. That would have been unfair. I knew what it was like when our parents were fighting with their siblings, like when Dad was fighting with his siblings and they didn't forgive. We completely separated ourselves
And we
from
suffered the
cousins.
repercussions of
and
not
we
growing
suffered
up
the
with any
repercussions
family.
of it, and we grew up to dislike to dislike those people.
Well, they were evil, so
I get
there
it. They
goes
were
that.
evil, yes. But at the end of the day, we still didn't have a good taste in our mouth about them. But again, it's inherited pain. I didn't want Nahara to have that inherited pain. I had to break
It's
the cycle.
generational, yeah.
But Nora and I, I appreciated that you and I were able to have a conversation. But I wonder, would you have come to me first or not? I know that in our family, we tend to just not speak of it. We just kind of move on as if nothing had happened. And as
We've been under the rug.
And as I've become an adult, and as I've gone to therapy, I realize that is just building up, and I realize I'm bleeding inside.
Yeah, it's festering.
And it breaks me.
Yeah. Well, that's why you have to address things and communicate and open your mouth.
Yeah.
It's like an open wound.
Why are you emotional about this, Jamila?
Because we have unfinished, we have unfinished work here. It's a constant,
So how do you propose that you guys can fix that or get past it to where you don't feel
We
the
just
hurt?
have to have a conversation.
Who's we?
You and I have to have a conversation. Me and Shakur have had a conversation. Me and Norb had a conversation. We just have to have a conversation. We have to lay it out in the open. And at the end of the day, we make mistakes. I'll take my accountability. I have no ego in this. I'll take my accountability. But it's like, I've done the work. I can't say the same. I don't know. Have you been going to therapy? Have you done some deep emotional healing? I don't know. But I personally, I'm not going to do any more performative healing. You know what I mean? I'm going to be myself.
When
And
you
if that means, what do you mean?
So, Jamila, when you say you've done the work,
I'm continuously doing the work. Let me rephrase. The work never ends.
Correct.
It continues.
Correct.
So
But
I continue to do the work.
I think in the sense of performative healing, it's when people say they've done the work,
And they
but they
pretend.
haven't applied the principles and concepts
performing like
that
a-
they've learned. They're
Yeah.
acting like they're healing. So it's very easy to say, oh, I went to therapy, I'm healed. And then you're really not, because you're just, everything is resurfacing. You just keep sweeping things under the rug, and before you know it, it's a mountain.
But think about it, it's a lot to unpack. It's like literally a whole lifetime of performative healing that you have to unpack. And you're always going to resort back. That's why you have to keep going. That's why I find
Well, it's
myself
not performative
going.
then. If it would be false if it's performative, because you're performing. Like,
It's continued healing, is what
Yeah,
you
you
mean.
need
Yeah,
to
no, but I said I'm done with the performative
She's done
healing.
with the performative.
I said I'm no longer going to perform in my healing. I'm
Act
no
like
longer
she's
going to
saying
just
that,
sweep things under the rug or save face for other people, pretend like, oh my God, we're so perfect on
You
the
wanna do the
outside.
work.
But absolutely, I want to do the work because I'm now a role model to my daughter. I don't want my daughter to be I'm trying to break the generational trauma.
right.
You know what I mean?
Because a lot of people, they say they're doing the inner work, but they're really just doing inner branding. They're not showing up. They have a therapist just to say they have a therapist. all while they burn their sage and they Palo Santo, but they're still gaslighting everyone around them and they still remain the problem, all while they sip their water that's charged by crystals under the moon. Like, you have a lot of people who perform and say it just to say it, but they do not apply the work. And that is where that's where the real magic happens, is when you apply the work. So
I agree. And I think the issue with that, with performative healing, is that it also leads to a lot of misinformation and people creating generalizations about things. Like online, all you hear is toxic masculinity or step into your femininity or you're a narcissist. And these words are getting thrown around so freely, and it's confusing everyone because they're not really understanding how to apply these things to people. Like, there's a big difference, like with how a narcissist acts. You can't just label everyone a narcissist because of this one experience that you had. Actually learn the difference and discern that.
correct.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up, Noor, because I actually was doing some research as well. And there's a doctor named Samantha Boardman. She's based out of New York City, and she's a Harvard graduate. And she talks often about the misuse of therapy language and how it's misdirected and how it basically, they call it now therapy speak. Everyone's saying the word gaslighting, everyone's saying trauma, and everyone is misusing these words, so no one knows what they really mean. No one knows when to really use these words in the right context. And because of that, people are thinking that, oh yeah, you know what, I noticed that he was a gaslighter. Yeah, I was being love bombed. And they're performative healing. They're acting like, okay, I did the work. I'm throwing these words around. And really they're just throwing around these words and not knowing when they should be used, how they should be approached. So it's fake healing. It's therapy talk. It's kind of like a trend now. It's part of the culture to use these words. Everyone thinks, oh, like we learned about breadcrumbing and love bombing. People are using that word left and right. No one even knows, what does that really mean? Does it really apply to me in this situation?
Yeah, so they don't know how to actually recognize
And
it.
because of that, we ourselves have blocked empathy and we've blocked open dialogue because we don't know how to use therapy correctly. And
Well, I think it's because you have to, not you, but I'm saying in general, like you have to go to therapy to understand how therapy works.
Exactly.
And for someone who does go to therapy, good on them. But it's like, again, you never stop going to therapy. You're never going to be healed. There's just too much to unpack for you just to be healed. It's an investment, just like you invest in your hair care, your skin care, your looks, your whatever. You have to invest in therapy just as much as you invest in your relationship with your man or your husband.
And
So what does healing look like? Is that forgiveness?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's forgiveness. It's reshaping how your mind thinks about the situation too. You know, that's part of healing as well. You know, performative healing is like therapy, but still being emotionally unavailable.
it's
like,
mainstream. They've made therapy
Yeah.
mainstream now. So now she was also talking about the effects of how it's kind of backfired, that therapy is actually causing more harm than good because people are learning all these words and this fake therapy, that when they're in therapy and they're not getting what they think they're supposed to be getting, they're questioning the therapist or questioning the session. And then it kind of backfires and says, well, therapy doesn't work for me. And then people give up on therapy. So that's what happens when it becomes mainstream.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though, not just beyond just going to a therapist and having a clinical therapist, that's board certified therapist, giving you the information that you think that you need to hear or want to hear. However you're obtaining this information, whether it be from a clinical therapist or from a self-help book or from you just doing a lot of research and inner work. It doesn't matter if you're going to the best of the best psychiatrist or psychologist or you're reading it out of a book. The performative healing is the issue. I don't care where you're getting the information from. If you're going to the top tier psychiatrist and you've made no difference and you haven't moved the needle a single iota in your life and you're the same person, then what the fuck does it matter who you got the information? Hold on. What does it matter where you got the information from? Are you applying what you are learning? I don't care. That's performative.
Shakur, ultimately, you can't
Let
save
me-
someone who doesn't want to be saved.
I
You can sit
understand.
there with the therapist and talk to your blue in the face, but unless you're willing to look at yourself and take accountability,
But that's why I
and say,
said-
this is what I've done, not only look at yourself, but forgive yourself, those ugly parts of you that you're afraid to see or show anyone.
But the part is-
that's when you're able to really heal.
But my point is that it is performative. People will go and say that they have a psychiatrist, they have a therapist that they talk to, but they don't do the work. So what does it matter if you
How-
get an
so what do
information
you
from a
mean?
self-help book or from a therapist if you don't apply the information?
Here's the big difference. When it comes to self-help books, which everyone's very big on, when you're reading from a book, you cut off the dialogue, right? When you're seeing a therapist and you're having conversation, you're posed questions that are difficult to answer. You're seeing a different perspective or suspective. When you're reading out of a book, that dialogue is then cut in half and cut even more because all you're doing is reading it. You're not sure how to apply it or what the definition of these words and these terms mean.
It's open to interpretation.
Yeah, there's a very big difference in therapeutic conversation and then reading it out of a book.
And there's
I
also
feel.
different types of therapy.
Yes.
You know, cognitive behavioral therapy is very different than from EMDR therapy. EMDR therapy, you're rewiring how your brain sees the trauma or how you respond to certain stimuli. Like I have like paddles when I go to my EMDR therapist, there's paddles in my hands and I'm literally going back to my memories come up and I'm thinking about, okay, the things that were traumatic for me that led me to be the way that I am as an adult, relating to whatever.
It's a psychodynamic approach.
It is. It's completely different versus, and when Shakur, you say, well, there are therapists that tell you what you want to hear. That's not a good therapist. Mm-hmm. A good therapist is not going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to tell you, hey, listen, this is what I'm observing. This is what I think you need to work on.
But I'm not saying all therapists are like that. What I'm saying is that it doesn't matter how accurate the information is. EMDR, any kind of therapist, if you do not apply it, ergo, we're talking about performative healing. It doesn't matter what kind of therapy it is if you do not apply it.
We agree.
You have to apply it.
Absolutely. It's definitely not an overnight fix, and sometimes it does take time for people to process. I can speak from experience. I don't know who in this group goes to therapy every week. I go to therapy every week for myself because I want to better myself as a person. I'm always going to fall short. I'm not sitting here saying that I'm perfect, but it definitely has allowed me to evolve over time as a person.
When it comes to forgiveness, are there any actions that you consider unforgivable, Shakur?
It depends on the offense, because sometimes you can go outside of the confines of forgiveness territory and get put into you can stay where karma can reach you range.
Shakur, what actions by a girlfriend, for example, would you consider to be unforgivable?
I can't do the betrayal dressed up as sisterhood. If you lie on my name, you weaponize my secrets, you cause me unprovoked harm, at that point, we're not in a rough patch, we're in a character reveal. And I have to keep my spiritual hygiene clean. Like, you're not going to come prancing through my peace with your muddy intentions. Like, you got to stay your distance. And for me, that's just for my own well-being of I can't exist in that plane. I can't exist in a place of distrust. I can't feel like you came for me. You know what I mean? You're trying to cause me ill harm or my well-being. Like, you're better off taking a blade to my throat and putting me out of my misery quicker. So for me, things like that is just, if it doesn't sit right in my spirit, I just got to walk away. Be at peace. Go in peace. I will leave in peace, and I will leave you at peace, but you're going to stay at a distance.
Well, the old Shakur would not have left in peace. She would
No,
have.
she would have gotten revenge because she has before.
Listen.
Absolutely.
But
you are not wrong.
This sounds
You
like an
are-
evolved Shakur, which I'm happy to see, by
Yeah.
the way. It's a breath of fresh air to see an evolved Shakur.
You are very correct. Old Shook 2.0, she would have dragged you to the seventh hell.
Well, she
would
already
have dragged
has,
you to
yeah.
the pit, and you would have known about it, and you would have never forgot, and it would ring like bells.
I pulled a royal flush.
However,
Is that
and
what
there's
you're about?
plenty of living examples walking around these streets right now that can tell you I cause detrimental damage. If it's like this, what do they say?
Well, it doesn't matter.
If he pulls out a knife, you pull out a gun. If he sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Sozahdah way. That was me. That was no.
I don't know
not a
about the
gangster,
Sozahdah
just
way.
Listen. I'm telling you. For me,
This is the Sopranos?
This
No,
one,
that's
no.
The Godfather.
Are we
No,
the Sopranos
you're
or the
wrong.
Sozahdas? I don't know.
no,
girl.
wrong again. Come on, Sean Connery. Come on. Listen. That's Sean. Come on, bro. Sean Connery.
to the family.
Hey, it's Anika's favorite line.
Never go against the family.
Listen, I'm telling you, that was my mentality Not too long ago, that was my mentality. I was that person. Hell hath no fury like Shakur Scorn. That was me. But hi, nice to meet you. Meet the new Shook. That is not where I'm at.
Well, damn.
I'm not there anymore because for me, I put value on peace in another way. It's life. You evolve. You
Copy
turn.
that.
What would be an unforgivable offense? Sid.
An unforgivable. I think that putting my life in danger would be unforgivable. Hurting anyone that I loved or cared for would be unforgettable. And there's different types of hurt. There's hurt where you're like, oh, that hurt my feelings. And there's hurt that make your heart bleed. And I think those are the hardest to forgive, is when your heart feels like it's literally bleeding out. So those are 3 red lines for me. One of them is not really a red line because I do feel like with Jamila, my heart bled a little bit. So that's difficult for me. Yeah, it's those are the 3 things for me.
Nora, I'd like to hear your take on this because, girl, you've been done wrong by some really close people in your life.
When it comes to forgiveness, I really had to learn a lot of hard lessons. And the biggest thing I learned about forgiveness is that it starts with me. I don't need the other person to say, hey, I hurt you, I'm sorry, do you forgive me, in order for me to forgive them, in order for me to go, I let it go, I can move on with my life now and be a better person. I don't need them to give me that validation for me to do that and to release myself of that burden. So that's how I view the lens of forgiveness now. Now, does it different when it comes to sisters and friends? I mean, I just have you, and then I have like my best girlfriends from college, and touch wood, we haven't ever had any real big fights. I talk to them like I would talk to you, and we keep it real with each other. We've never done anything to each other that was truly unforgivable. Now, when it comes to sisters, there have been some that have done things that were absolutely heartbreaking to me that I would never have done to them in a million years. And at the end of the day, whether something is truly unforgivable just comes down to you as a person. Do you want to hold on to it? I don't want my body to hold that trauma. You have muscle memory. Literally, when you recall traumatic events you have not healed from, your body tenses up and you feel it, and you're vividly reliving that trauma as if it's happening in real time, which is why you have to forgive for yourself.
And this is the reason why this is a new Shook. Specifically, all those things you touched on, with the reshaping of the brain, the amygdala, your prefrontal cortex being completely tampered with. These are the reasons why I now am the person, because I physically cannot afford the stress on my physical body. I cannot do it per doctor's orders. Like, I cannot do it. So for me, I am at a survival mode of like self-preservation, where I cannot afford to not have the peace. So if that comes with me, again, giving you the forgiveness and being like, it's all right, whether you are accountable or not, whether you apologize or not, I don't care about any of the bullshit. I'm going to do something to self-preserve myself, and I'm going to do is let it go.
Yeah,
for
and I think
nothing else,
yeah.
but for myself, self-preservation at this
Exactly.
point.
And there are situations where you can say, I forgive you, but I just don't F with you anymore.
Yeah,
And that's it.
go in peace.
Yeah. Jamila, what do you think is unforgivable to be done, whether it's from a sister or a friend?
I mean, by some of the things that have happened, I would say some people wouldn't even forgive what's happened in between like Sid and I. We don't have to get into it. But, you know, for me, at the end of the day, forgiveness is like a detox. The side effects hit hard, but you go through that cleansing. And at this point in my life, it's like my forgiveness doesn't have to be made public, or me forgiving someone doesn't have to be made public. I can do it in the privacy. I can do it in private. And sometimes there's no need to even clap back. So it's like, I just have looked at it very differently now. I look at situations in a way where if my daughter was doing something that could be unforgivable or was not appropriate, how would I talk to her? How would I respond to her?
So at this point, Jamila, where you're at in your life with your therapy, can you forgive without A, someone taking the accountability, or B, someone actually technically apologizing and saying, I'm sorry? Can you?
Yeah, because as Nora had mentioned, you know, I agree with her. Forgiveness comes with yourself first.
But do you allow it to fester in and have these emotional?
No.
doubts about it or no?
No. I mean, you do get to a point, sometimes there are triggering moments. You can be
Right.
triggered, right? We can always go back to that moment. But in the grand scheme of things, no. I look at things differently now.
And you're okay with it.
Yeah.
And you can let sleeping dogs lie.
I mean, again, forgiveness doesn't mean you have to be in my life. It doesn't mean that I have to be talking to you, sitting with you, having tea with you.
Right.
I can forgive you from a distance and never talk to you again. And that goes for friends and family at this point in my life. Because I have my own family to worry about now.
You know, this is all very deep stuff and things that we don't really talk about often. I think it's because, and growing up, it was kind of taboo to bring these sorts of forgiveness up, and it was always just brush everything under the rug. Mom was ever like, "Oh, God forgives you, forget, boom,"
Or deal with it.
or deal with it. So I'd like to get 11's, perspective or suspective on what you think, 11. What forgiveness really means. Is there anything that you wouldn't forgive if your friends did it to you,
or your
Family.
sister.
or your family or your sister? What's unforgivable?
For me, the unforgivable is intentional betrayal when someone knows it'll hurt me and does it anyway. I can forgive, but breaking the trust on purpose changes everything. Forgiveness might come, but closeness won't.
See, 11, I'm picking up what you're putting down because you and I are on the same accord, and I literally just said that verbatim. It's all about the intention, and those are the type of offenses, like you, 11, that I feel like I need to be kept to myself and let you go in peace.
I think this is the first thing Shakur has agreed upon that 11 has said.
I mean, girl, because
Are you listening,
11,
girl?
you're crazy.
She's listening. She's listening.
I mean, 11, you kind of out there, and you're kind of like, very like PC on a lot of things, and it's like, girl,
I don't
like,
think 11's PC. I think 11 keeps it real.
you like to keep
Yeah.
she likes to be, I mean, I don't know if she keeps it so much real, girl. I think you need a little bit more wisdom and time. You're kind of like a Gen Zer, so like you see things from a different, more of an unseasoned perspective, like most Gen Zers.
Well, she is number 11, so she has different. It's a whole
What do you
different
mean?
generation.
She has a whole generation, several generations of front of her.
And you have to understand when 11 was 2 when Dad passed.
Let's talk about Grudge Girl Diaries. About girls who hold grudges. Is it normal? How long? For what reason? What justifies being petty or holding a grudge?
Against whom are you holding the grudge, Nora?
It can be against anyone. It can be against a partner, against a sister, a friend.
You saying the timeline? For me personally, I don't do grudges anymore. I just put you in the timeout.
Sorry.
I put people in the timeout.
Shakur.
What?
I'm
I'm
going to
the
respectfully.
definition of grudge. Grudge, Shakur.
You are the godmother grudge is what I'm gonna call you.
I was past tense, but get to know me. Hi, I'm new Shakur 5.0. You
Hold
can,
on. Hi,
you can-
hold on. Hi, are you the AI sister, Shakur?
you can hold on to who you want to. It's not for me to teach you how to show that I've evolved.
So, Sadiqa, what's the dumbest grudge you've held and why?
Probably if like y'all went out to dinner or planned a trip and I wasn't invited, and I freaking hold a grudge for like a couple of days and had FOMO about it.
Well, you are the queen
Like
of FOMO.
that is the dumbest thing to hold a grudge about, but it was never a long grudge. Like, oh, I'd probably just show up.
I know.
Check your location, show up anyways.
You've done that. I know personally a dumb grudge I've held is when you ruined my birthday.
Oh, yeah.
That's so annoying.
Jamila, what about you?
My grudge when Shakur ruined my birthday.
You deserve that shit. I stand on that 10 toes down. You deserve
Oh,
that.
Shakur,
You deserve that.
Damn.
Oh,
Now there has to be a 6.0 because you ruined 5.0.
we need an update. All right.
Is there a reboot button?
We need an AI update. Oops, software malfunction.
So you know what's interesting? I think that the grudge holding comes from our culture. I think that,
No, I don't think it's culture.
I think it
disagree.
is, girl.
No, I think it comes from your parents.
yeah, from mom.
That
and our
part.
That's
culture.
not culture.
That part.
You can't say culture and
Afghans
parents.
hold grudges, girl.
But
No, you
I think
can't-
it's
too
catered
general.
more to your environment and how we were raised.
Yeah.
There's all these sayings in Pashto of like, may curtain become your veil. May death
be your
become your
your
may
curtain.
death become your curtain. Or I won't see you until you're in the grave.
No,
Or
you
God
won't even
forbid-
see my face in a box in the grave.
Yeah, or like may you. There's such crazy.
It's really harsh.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
talk
really
about
hard.
marg pardasa.
Like may death
be
become your curtain for your
Yeah.
face. Like marg pardasa, may death become your curtain, which means that you can't see shit but death. Or like
That sounds like a curse.
may you reach the depths of the seventh hell. Like there's some crazy shit we
Crazy
say.
ass
Well,
insults.
because they're not just cursing you out, they're cursing out your entire
Generations.
lineage.
Yeah.
They're cursing at your ancestors. There's so much gravitas behind being cursed at in Pashto.
Do you think that guys hold grudges?
Oh yeah,
Absolutely,
girl.
they're
That's
wars.
fucking terrible,
There's
yo.
wars.
Guys are the
started.
kings of harping. He'll wake up in the middle of the night and notice something you
Wow.
did back in 1992. Slap you for it. Who knows? That's how they are.
Do men hold grudges?
Yes, they're
Of
harpers.
course they do. They're human. They're human. Humans.
Who do you think is worse at holding grudges, men or women?
I think, let me tell you something.
Women.
Men, no, let me tell
It's
you
in our
why.
DNA to hold a grudge, girl.
No, let me tell you why. Women will react quicker and they can get over it. But a man, when you hurt a man or you emasculate him or you come at him a certain way, he does not recover from that. That is something that he will hold on to forever.
I'll give you an example. There's moments in time where I've obviously have snapped at John, right? And he'll be like, I'm not one of your sisters. Don't talk to me like I'm one of your sisters. And then he'll be down for like a day or two. And I'm like, aren't you over it? He goes, I'm not a light switch. I can't just get over it. It takes time for me to process. And I realized, oh my gosh, men do process it differently. I think especially when it comes from someone they love and care about or someone they respect, it definitely hits harder.
But I also think this comes into play. Growing up 11 people in a 3-bedroom house, if I was mad at you,
12.
for a while it was 12, then it became 11. If I was mad at you, Jamila, and I didn't want anything to do with you, I would still have to sleep with you in the bed. I would still have to go pee while you're brushing your teeth, and I'd roll over and your face would be right there. I would
On
breathe
the
in same
bed.
air you
We ain't
breathe.
had no bed, child. We were on the
or
floor.
whatever, girl. And like we'd have to wear the same clothes. Like, oh, you're mad at me? Oh, I'm wearing your shirt tomorrow. So we had no chance to even digest us being angry and
You
sitting
weren't
in that
allowed
dirt.
to process.
Yeah.
is it easier to forgive some people and not others?
Yes, I believe it's easier to forgive some over others because sometimes you might forgive the person that you're just stuck with. Sometimes like, fuck, I gotta forgive Jamila or Noor because she's gonna be my sister the day I die. So it's kind of like, whatever. I'm gonna have to forgive her from the same cut from the same cloth. She's mom's daughter. She's my sister. So yeah, maybe I'd be more mindful of forgiving you over like a homegirl that did me wrong. And I'm like, you know what? I'm never gonna see her again. I don't care. She's to the side. I don't have to really forgive her for anything. I could live without her. But versus my sister, it's kind of like, well, you're going to be in my life forever, so I might as well forgive you.
So when you say you won't forgive her, are you like still mad or upset, or are you like let it go and you just don't want to be
No,
around
I'm
them?
more open to speak about forgiveness because that's someone that you're stuck with forever, you know? There's never going to be a time where I don't see Jamila because I have 9 other sisters and they might be cool with her and now she has a daughter. So now it's like the forgiveness might happen more quickly or more often if it's with a family member or a lover versus a friend or a coworker because that person's in your face and you're kind of forced to almost have to forgive them or have that
I mean,
tough
you don't have to
conversation.
force yourself to be around anyone, you know? Like
there's
me,
there's
I
kind of
open
no
the doors.
escaping it, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, no, there's a way of escaping it because there's some people that I haven't forgiven that are in our family that I have no intention of ever reconciling with.
That sounds like you need therapy, babe.
No, not at all. No, I literally choose, and when I do decide to forgive for those horrible actions on their end, I don't need to have them. I don't need to have them in my life.
I didn't say to have her back in your
know?
life. I'm just saying to let it go.
And well, yeah, absolutely. You know, there will be a time where I do let it go. Right now, it's not like it's sitting in the back of my head, and I'm like, oh my god, and I'm mulling over it. Not at all.
Can we take it to a brighter note and say, have you ever forgiven a man because he has a good D?
Nor has.
Oh my god.
Nor would be.
Let's just bring it back.
Look. Oh, see, she owns
Raise
it.
your hand.
At least she can own it.
Guilty as charged.
Wait, you guys forgave a guy because he gave you
Yes,
D?
I forgave him for being broke because he had good dick.
Okay.
Oh, well, damn. Well, damn.
You know what? I actually was pretty shocked. This happened years ago when Beyonce forgave Jay-Z for publicly humiliating her and cheating on her, and that whole fight happened in the elevator with her sister, and it was like, oh my gosh, because you know they're like, you know, top of society, and I thought like she's the queen bee, right? So you're like, oh shit, she's Beyonce. So for her to be able to put all the scrutiny behind her and just the world, everyone in the world watching her, like, you know what, I'm gonna forgive my man. That's like, damn, that's props. That's a strong woman. That's someone that's, you know, she knows her self-worth, but she's also like, she didn't really give a fuck. It was about her and her man and her forgiving her man, and she didn't care what anyone had to say. And kudos to her, because I don't know if I'd be able to do that.
But hold on. He didn't publicly humiliate her.
He cheated on her and everyone knew,
No,
babe.
no,
She's
babe.
saying about it.
No, babe. That's the after story. What someone did was insert themselves and rob them of a private moment in an intimate setting
I'm
between.
not talking about the elevator. I'm talking about
Well,
just,
that's the only reason why anyone found out what happened. He wasn't out there smutting around and hoeing around. It only came to surface because
Did it?
someone invaded their private moment and fucking took their surveillance of an elevator footage and took a family moment and fucking weaponized it and capitalized off of it. He wasn't out here smutting around, dick swinging and shit like that.
But sometimes
He
when-
didn't, but she was forced to do something about it when someone invaded their privacy. That would have never came to surface hadn't that happened.
But sometimes it's easier to forgive your man behind closed doors. But I mean, there's been instances where I've been in a relationship and I'm like, well, now my sisters know about it, so no, fuck, I can't forgive you.
Then
I
don't
look
tell your
stupid about it,
sisters.
right?
Well,
And
what
no, it's
about-
because they find out by accident.
How?
So for me, it's more like, damn, everyone found out and she still let it go. It wasn't like, you know what, I'm gonna be 10 toes down, like you say, and not forgive you because now I just feel I'm embarrassed. She was like, whether it was in public or behind closed doors, I'm still gonna forgive you, and I think that's kudos.
Think about something more recently. Look at Jessica Biel and Justin Timberlake.
Oh,
Now
what
that was
happened?
an actual public humiliation.
Yeah.
Holding another woman's hand while he's filming in New Orleans.
What?
And then again, and then, getting a DUI. Yeah, I mean, he's put her
Did
through
she forgive him?
She's still with him.
Yeah,
See?
that's grown folk business though. You can't, people have their own thresholds. The thing that makes it so nasty is that people invade people's space and don't allow them to be. What someone is doing in their own moment, I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that you're robbing someone of the privacy of being able to deal with it on how they want to deal with
I
it.
mean, I agree with you.
I know,
No,
but
no,
I'm
no.
saying
I'm
but
just telling you
when you got
what's
people
out
on
there.
a public level, hold on. When you have people on a public level having to play it out publicly because someone's all up in your fucking
It's
shit.
harder to forgive than they forgive, which is why I'm giving kudos.
And also, if you're a celebrity, don't do dumb shit. If you know you have paps
But-
following you and you're gonna get caught,
Yeah,
then
but-
you deserve to get caught, and you're putting your business
But whatever
out there.
happens in the
Stay
darkness,
human, girl.
always comes to light. And my thing, Shakur, final thought was that I wasn't saying it was right that it became public. I'm saying that, damn, even more kudos that it became public and you were still like, damn, I forgive you, boo. That's like dope. For me, that's like, wow, what a strong woman.
And then didn't Cardi B
Exactly.
forgive her man for cheating, but then he did it again?
Yeah, multiple times, and people knew about it. It's like, damn, like I don't know if I personally could be able to take public scrutiny and know that everyone knew my business and then still forgive. I think that part of that public humiliation would make me not want to forgive. I'm
That's
just being
pride.
a realist here.
See,
That's
and but
pride.
then that's something that again, that is you have to look within self.
Yeah.
If you can have someone else's opinion sway you from doing something that would absolve you of any kind of like hurt and pain, why would that be contingent upon what someone else has to say?
mean, people don't wanna be shamed.
Because of their perspective or perspective. Like, why not just say fuck what all the bullshit is and what anyone has to say about it? I'm gonna do what I want to do.
Because, babe, there's something called shame, and shame can be very
Nah,
heavy on
shame
the
is how you
soul.
look at it, boo.
I wonder if there's a bunch of things that need to be forgiven in that chest right there.
Damn.
Should we play a little forgiveness chess game?
Yes, let's do it.
Hey Wolfpack, it's game time. DM your questions to the podcast to have them added to the chest.
Truth or take a shot. Either share your most awkward hookup story or drink.
I want to hear the story.
Just
Come
tell
on,
the
be
story,
a sport.
girl.
Be a sport.
So I'll share an awkward hookup story. It wasn't awkward leading up to it. What was awkward was what he said when he finished. He was a fan of dirty talk, and he said something along the lines of like, "Yeah, you dirty little slut," and it just caught me so off guard. I remember being genuinely just shocked, like that came out of left field. But
During an intimate moment.
it was
busting.
While he was finishing. He just kind of
Oh,
let
wow.
it out. It was
I
like
busted
he
wide
just-
open.
Never say that.
I'ma bring it back.
Never say that to a feminist.
I mean, there's a time and a place for things, but it was just kind of weird to say it like as you're finishing.
But that is literally the time to say something like
Yeah.
that in that moment.
It's called dirty talk, Nor.
Your climax. That's what you
I
say, you
found-
dirty
I-
little
Would you
slut.
would you prefer
Yeah.
would you rather he say?
I understand it before, but not like as it like it happens.
You're just not a fan of it.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I just think there's a time and a place for it.
So when do you say you're a dirty little slut?
Beforehand.
Before he nuts?
Yes.
I really thought that this conversation was therapeutic in many ways. You know, we got to address some elephants in the room, and I've also learned that forgiveness is also very healing in itself. It's very therapeutic. So there's healing in the power of forgiveness.
All right, y'all. Don't forget to check on your sister, and please tune in to the next episode of Sispective. Ow!